The phone rang just as Emma was finishing her morning coffee. She glanced at the screen and froze. It wasn't a number she recognized. It was her husband's office. Heart thudding, she answered. "Hello?" she said, trying to sound casual. "Is this Mrs. Harper?" a calm male voice asked. "This is Daniel Summers, David's supervisor." Emma felt her stomach twist. David rarely mentioned his work beyond the usual office chatter. Something about the tone of the voice made her uneasy. "Yes, this is she," Emma replied, gripping the mug tighter than necessary. "Is everything okay with David?" There was a pause. "I need to speak with you about something important. It's sensitive." Emma's mind raced. Sensitive could mean anything. A project gone wrong? An accident? Her heart sank at every possible scenario. Of course. What happened? Daniel explained that David had been offered a promotion, one that required relocating temporarily for a high-stakes project. Emma's relief was immediate, but so was the surprise. David had never mentioned any possibility of a promotion. I didn't know about this," Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's a sudden opportunity," Daniel continued. "We need someone we can trust to lead this team. Your husband is perfect for it. But there's a catch. It requires him to move within the next week." Emma's mind went blank. A week? That was impossibly soon. She pictured their small apartment, the boxes they hadn't unpacked fully, the life they had carefully built. Could they really uproot so fast? "I understand," Emma said, trying to sound calm. But inside, panic was rising. She could hear her own thoughts screaming. "What about our life here? Our friends? My job?" Daniel's voice softened. "But we believe this is the best step for David. He's earned it." Emma nodded, though she knew he couldn't see her. "I'll talk to him." As she hung up, her mind was spinning. David would be thrilled about the promotion. But could she be ready for this? She walked to the living room, looking at the pictures on the wall, the life they had built together. Suddenly, it all seemed fragile, on the verge of change. Just then, David walked in, humming a tune she hadn't heard in weeks. His smile was infectious, completely unaware of the life-altering news she had just received. "Morning, Em," he said cheerfully. "Morning," she replied, her voice quieter than usual. He flopped onto the couch, pulling her into a quick hug. "Did you sleep okay?" "As okay as I could." Inside, her heart pounded. How could she tell him that his world was about to change, and that hers might shatter along with it? David tilted his head, sensing something off. "Emma, what's wrong?" She hesitated. How do you start a conversation that could turn everything upside down? She took a deep breath. "You're not going to like this, but your supervisor called me this morning." David sat up, confusion knitting his brows. "He called you? About what?" Emma explained the promotion, the sudden move, the short timeline. David's face shifted through shock, excitement, and worry, all in seconds. I didn't know this was coming," he finally said, running his hands through his hair. "A week? That's insane." Emma nodded. "I know, it's fast, too fast, but it's also incredible for you." David leaned back, silent for a long moment. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know if I'm ready, or if we're ready." The tension between them was thick. Emma wanted to comfort him, but she also needed to process her own fear. Everything was changing, and they hadn't even packed a single box. She sat there, feeling the weight of what was coming, wondering if their love and their life could survive this sudden storm. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. As David stared out the window, lost in thought, Emma felt an unsettling chill. Something about this promotion felt bigger than either of them understood. And deep down, she sensed that this wasn't just about work. It was about choices, trust, and the future of their marriage. The next morning, David was quiet. He went through his routine, but there was a tension in his shoulders Emma had never seen before. Even the coffee didn't help lift his mood. Emma tried to talk, but every attempt seemed to stumble over the words. Maybe we could start planning? See what it would take? She suggested gently. David shook his head. Planning feels impossible right now. A week isn't enough time to figure out how to move our lives. Emma watched him, heart aching. She knew he wanted the promotion, but she also saw the weight of responsibility pressing on him. It wasn't just a job. It was their life, packed into cardboard boxes that didn't yet exist. I know it's sudden, she said softly, but you deserve this, and I'm here, whatever you need. David looked at her, eyes searching hers. There was love there, yes, but also fear. I don't want to fail or hurt us. Emma reached for his hand. We won't fail, not if we face it together. Still, the uncertainty hung over them like a storm cloud. They spent the day in quiet preparation, looking online for temporary housing, checking moving companies, and even considering what jobs she could do remotely. But every click, every phone call felt unreal. That evening, Daniel Summers called again. His voice was steady, almost comforting. David, I hope you've had some time to think. We need a decision soon. David swallowed hard. I know. It's just a lot. Emma stayed by his side, holding his arm. You're not alone. We'll handle it step by step. The call ended, leaving an emptiness that made the apartment feel too quiet. Emma stared out the window, imagining their future in a city far from everything familiar. She felt excitement mingled with fear, a strange, twisting knot in her chest. That night, David couldn't sleep. He paced the small living room, muttering plans and doubts under his breath. Emma lay awake beside him, listening, feeling every hesitation and hope. Finally, David stopped at the window. Emma, what if this changes everything? What if I take it and we can't come back as same? Emma moved closer, her hand finding his. Then we face it, together. Change isn't always bad. Sometimes it brings us closer. David closed his eyes, leaning into her warmth. I hope you're right. The next morning, David made a decision. He would take the promotion, but he wanted Emma by his side, every step of the way. They began the whirlwind of packing, paperwork, and planning. Friends offered help, coworkers sent advice, and slowly, the impossible week began to feel just a little possible. But as the day drew on, a letter arrived in their mailbox. Emma opened it without thinking. Inside was a notice that made her blood run cold. It wasn't from the company. It was from someone else entirely, and it hinted at secrets David hadn't shared, things from the past that could unravel everything. Emma stared at the envelope in her hands, heart hammering. She knew she had to tell David, but fear gripped her. How could they face this on top of the already overwhelming move? David walked into the kitchen, humming absent-mindedly. He didn't notice the letter on the counter. Emma's mind raced. Should she speak now or wait? Could they survive another shock, so close to such a big change? The silence stretched, heavy and almost unbearable. Emma's fingers trembled around the envelope. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what she was about to reveal. Before she could say a word, David turned, sensing her tension. Emma, what's wrong? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The secret in her hand felt like a second heart, beating with its own urgency. The moment stretched, fragile, and terrifying, and in that silence, Emma realized that this move, this promotion, wasn't just about a new city or a new job. It was about trust, honesty, and the strength of the life they had built together. Emma finally handed David the envelope, his brow furrowed as he took it, glancing at her for explanation. "What is this?" he asked softly. I don't know exactly," she admitted. "It came in the mail today. It's about something from your past. I think you need to see it." David opened the letter carefully. As he read, his face shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to a kind of quiet horror. I can't believe this," he murmured. Emma's heart raced. "What is it, David?" He swallowed hard, struggling for words. "It's a complaint from years ago, something that was never fully resolved at my last job. It was minor back then, but if it surfaces now, it could affect this promotion." Emma's stomach dropped. "Oh, David, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." David shook his head. "No, this isn't your fault. But now, everything is at risk. The promotion, the move, it could all fall apart." They sat together in silence, the apartment suddenly feeling smaller than ever. Emma reached for his hand again, feeling the tremble in his fingers. "We'll figure this out," she said firmly. "Together." David nodded slowly, but the worry didn't leave his eyes. "I don't want this to ruin us, or my career, or us." Emma squeezed his hand. "It won't. We'll face it like we always do, side by side." The next morning, David contacted Daniel at the office. He explained the situation cautiously, careful not to reveal too much, but enough to show his honesty. Daniel listened quietly, then reassured him. "We appreciate your transparency, David. This won't automatically disqualify you. We'll review it internally, but your promotion is still on the table." Relief flooded through Emma and David. It wasn't over yet, but at least the path forward wasn't completely blocked. The following days were a blur. They packed their apartment, sorted through belongings, and made lists of what to take. Every corner they turned reminded them of the life they were leaving behind. Friends, routines, little habits that made their space theirs. One afternoon, as Emma folded clothes, she found a small, worn photograph of David as a child. He was smiling, holding a tiny trophy. She smiled softly to herself, then felt a pang of nostalgia. "It's amazing how life changes, isn't it?" she whispered to herself. David looked over, catching her words. "Yeah, one day you're holding trophies, and the next you're staring down a huge move and a promotion that feels impossible." Emma laughed quietly. "Impossible, maybe, but not if we do it together." The night before their move, they sat on the couch, surrounded by packed boxes. The apartment looked strange, almost hollow. Emma rested her head on David's shoulder, feeling the tension of the week seep away, replaced by quiet anticipation. "I'm scared," David admitted. "Not about the promotion, about us, about whether we can handle all this change." Emma kissed his temple. "Change is scary, but I believe in us. We've faced hard things before, and we've survived. This will be no different." David held her tighter, grateful for her unwavering support. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Emma smiled faintly. "You'll never have to find out." As the clock ticked toward midnight, a sudden knock on the door startled them. David frowned. Who could that be at this hour? Emma moved cautiously toward the door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw a man standing there, someone she didn't recognize. His face was serious, almost urgent. Her heart skipped a beat. "David, there's someone at the door." David joined her, tension visible in his stance. At this hour? Who is it? The man didn't speak immediately. Instead, he handed them a small envelope and walked away without a word. Emma took it inside, her hands trembling. The envelope had no return address, only their names in careful handwriting. David opened it slowly, revealing a single sheet of paper. His eyes widened as he read. Emma could see the color drain from his face. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David looked at her, his expression unreadable. "It's something I never expected. Something from my past that could change everything." The air in the apartment felt heavier. Emma's heart pounded. She knew their lives were about to be tested in ways they hadn't imagined. And in that quiet, tense moment, she realized that the move, the promotion, and their future weren't the only things at stake. Their trust, their love, and everything they had built together were on the line. David stared at the paper in his hands, his face pale. Emma waited, holding her breath. What does it say?" she asked softly. He swallowed hard, eyes scanning the page again. "It's a warning. Someone from my past. They're threatening to reveal something personal if I go through with the promotion. It's petty, but it could ruin everything." Emma's stomach twisted. "But why now? Why after all these years?" David shook his head. "I don't know. I haven't spoken to this person in over a decade. I thought it was behind me." Emma reached for his hand. "We can't let them control your life, or our lives. We have to face this together." David nodded slowly. "You're right. I never expected this, right before the biggest step of our lives." They spent the night discussing strategies, options, and possible outcomes. Each idea brought new anxiety, but together they worked through every possibility. It was exhausting, but Emma could see the determination in David's eyes. He wasn't ready to let fear decide their future. The next morning, David called Daniel Summers. "I need a little more time," he said cautiously, explaining the situation in vague terms. Daniel's response was surprisingly so. "Take the time you need. We want you to succeed, and we trust you'll handle this responsibly." Relief washed over David, but it was tempered by the lingering fear of the unknown. Emma hugged him tightly after the call. "See, you're not alone in this. Whatever comes, we face it together." With the move still looming, they continued packing. Each box was a mixture of excitement and melancholy. Emma found herself lingering over familiar items, the mugs they bought together, the blankets they shared on cold nights, the photo albums full of memories. "Do you ever think about how fast life changes?" she asked quietly, holding a framed photo of the two of them on their first anniversary. David smiled faintly. "All the time. But I think that's what makes it beautiful. Every change tests us, but it also shows us what really matters." Emma nodded. "I just hope we're ready for it." The day of the move arrived. Movers came early, carrying boxes and furniture out of the apartment. Emma and David supervised, trying to stay organized, but each item they packed felt like a piece of their shared history slipping away. As they loaded the final box into the truck, Emma glanced around the empty apartment. The silence was heavy. "It feels unreal," she murmured. David wrapped an arm around her. "It's not unreal. It's just the beginning." They left the apartment for the last time, driving toward the unknown city where David's promotion awaited. Along the way, they held hands, finding comfort in each other's presence. The road stretched ahead, full of possibilities and uncertainties. Then, during a brief stop for coffee, David's phone buzzed. It was a message from the unknown person, the one who had sent the envelope. Emma watched as David read it, his expression darkening. "It says, they're watching," he whispered. "They know we're moving. They're not finished." Emma felt a chill run through her body. "Watching? What does that even mean?" David shook his head, voice tight. "I don't know, but we can't ignore it. This isn't just a threat on paper anymore. It's real." Emma gripped his hand. "Then we face it. Together. Like always." They got back into the car, hearts pounding, aware that their journey was no longer just about a new job or a new city. It was about protecting their future, their love, and each other from a shadow that had crept back into their lives unexpectedly. The highway stretched ahead, the setting sun casting long shadows across the road. Emma glanced at David, feeling both fear and hope. She knew that the days ahead would test them in ways they hadn't imagined, but she also knew that their bond could carry them through anything. And yet, as the city skyline appeared in the distance, a sense of unease lingered. Something about the message, about the timing, felt like the first ripple in a storm neither of them was ready to face. The city was alive with lights as Emma and David drove through the unfamiliar streets. Skyscrapers loomed above, casting shadows that seemed to echo the unease still lingering between them. David parked outside the temporary apartment Daniel had arranged. The building was modern, clean, but it felt sterile compared to the life they had left behind. Emma stepped out of the car, clutching her bag, and took a deep breath. "This is it," she said quietly. "Our new beginning." David nodded, though his eyes kept flicking to the street. "Yeah, but we need to stay alert. That message, it wasn't just a joke. Someone's following this too closely." They carried the first boxes inside. The apartment was smaller than they expected, but it had large windows that let in sunlight. And for a moment, Emma felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could make this place theirs. As they unpacked, David's phone buzzed again. Another message. This time it was short. "We'll meet soon. You can't hide from the past." Emma's hands trembled slightly as she put down a box. "David, maybe we should tell Daniel. Or the police?" David shook his head. "Not yet. I don't want to escalate anything unnecessarily, but we have to be careful. Every step we take, every move we make, we need to watch." The evening settled in, and Emma tried to make the apartment feel like home. She hung their photos, set up the coffee maker, and even put a small vase of flowers on the table. David watched her, admiration and love in his eyes. "You know," he said softly, "no matter where we are, it's still home, because you're here." Emma's heart warmed. "I feel the same, but I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over yet." David walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. "I know, but we'll face it, together, like we always do." Days passed. David started his new role, throwing himself into work with determination. Emma explored the city, finding small joys in cafes and parks, but the tension never fully left. Every time David's phone buzzed, their hearts skipped a beat. One evening, after a long day, David came home with a hesitant expression. "Emma, I think they're trying to meet me. They left a note at my office." Emma's chest tightened. "What does it say?" "They want to talk, face to face. I don't know if I should go alone." Emma took his hands. "Then I go with you. We face it together." The next day, they went to a quiet cafe, the note's location carefully chosen. David scanned the room, tension visible in his posture. Emma stayed close, her presence a steady anchor. A man approached, a stranger, mid-30s, calm but with a sharp intensity. "David Harper?" he asked. "Yes," David said, cautiously. "I'm not here to hurt you," the man said. "I just need to clear something up from the past, something that's been misunderstood." David and Emma exchanged a glance. Relief washed over them, slowly replacing the tension. This wasn't a threat. It was closure, finally, for a chapter that had been left open for too long. The man explained the misunderstanding, apologized for any past grievances, and assured them that the promotion and move were safe. David listened, a weight lifting from his shoulders. As the conversation ended, Emma looked at David. "See, we survived it. Together." David pulled her into a hug, relief and love written all over his face. "I can't imagine facing anything without you." For the first time since the unexpected call from Daniel Summers, the tension finally eased. They had confronted the unknown, faced fear and uncertainty, and come out stronger. That night, back in their new apartment, they sat together by the window, looking at the city lights. "It's strange," Emma said softly. "All this chaos brought us here, but I feel like we're exactly where we're supposed to be." David nodded, holding her close. "Life will always throw challenges our way, but as long as we have each other, we can handle anything." And in that quiet moment, they understood something important. It wasn't the promotion, the move, or the past that defined them. It was their love, trust, and the strength they found in facing life together. The city lights shimmered outside, a new chapter waiting to be written. And for Emma and David, it felt like the beginning of everything they had ever dreamed of, full of hope, courage, and a love that could withstand anything. The storm had passed, and the future was theirs to embrace.